All right, we are at the top of the hour. Welcome and thank you so much for being with us. This is the Behind the Sign presented by Better Business Bureau webinar series. My name is Dale Dixon. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Better Business Bureau Great West and Pacific, and we really appreciate you spending this time with us for this series today. Growth Secrets. We're going to talk about how real businesses are getting more leads in 2024. And today we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently in that typically we bring you a subject matter expert and let them teach us for the full 45 minutes and answer questions. Today, though, and doing that different, we have brought a group of experts in their own field who are real business owners, real people behind the scenes doing the work of lead gen, and they're going to share with us their secrets, and we're really excited to hear and learn from them. I'll tell you, we've had a couple conversations leading up to this webinar, and it is super impressive, the cast that we have at our disposal for the next hour to really learn some fantastic ways to bring in new business. So the question is, why, as Better Business Bureau, are we doing this? And it's because, according to a recent HubSpot survey, about 2/3 of businesses say that getting more leads is the biggest marketing challenge that they're facing right now. And so we're going to make that task feel just a little bit easier as we go through this process. I'm joined today by Scott Williams, David Evans, and Stacy Danheiser. They've each been there, done that, and they keep getting results. That's the important piece to remember. They keep getting results when it comes to lead generation. So they're going to share their insights, their strategies with us over the course of this time together on how you can get more leads and grow your business. Before I officially introduce them to you and give you some background on their expertise, a few things we want to note for this webinar, a few housekeeping items for you. First of all, we want to extend a big thank you to our BBB accredited businesses. We're here because of you and for you. And it's your commitment to Better Business Bureau's 8 standards for trust that we're all making this a better marketplace for business and for the customers that we serve day in and day out. And we appreciate your commitment and your dedication and to helping your business grow. We actually have a pair of accredited businesses represented on our panel today. Lex Brody's Tire, Brake and Service Company. It's a recipient of our 2022 Torch Awards for Ethics, as well as DeBella, a home improvement company that is sponsoring this year's Torch Awards. So these businesses are walking the talk, and they are living out doing the right thing in the marketplace, as evidenced by the awards that they're receiving in the Torch Awards. We're proud to partner with these amazing companies who are also BBB accredited businesses, so we can work together to build a more trustworthy marketplace. A reminder, you're going to be able to rewatch today's webinar, and we're going to be sending you a link via email at the conclusion of the webinar so you can go back and share it with teammates, share it with other people, your colleagues. And finally, our panel is ready to answer your questions. So be keeping track of those questions. You can do it really easily right here on the platform that we're using for this webinar. Share those in the chat box to the right of your screen, and we're going to reserve the last 15 minutes of our time together to answer those questions. So speaking of our experts today, let's dive into the introductions. David Evans is the partnership manager with DeBella. He carries more than 15 years of experience in the home improvement industry. David leads a dynamic team responsible for onboarding new programs and lead sources in the company. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the table. He's worked with a diverse range of clients and partners throughout his career. David, we're thrilled to have you here. Thank you for making your time available to us today. We're also thrilled to have with us Scott Williams, the VP of Marketing and Brand Management with Lex Brody's. Scott's been a member of the Lex Brody's team for more than 36 years, starting off literally pumping gas, working his way up to GM and president. And as the VP of Marketing and Brand Management, Scott manages Lex Brody's marketing budget. He spearheads the company's focus on digital marketing. And since 2015, Lex Brody's has succeeded in tracking more than 90% of their digital lead sources each month. Scott is also a member of the BBB Board of Directors, and we really appreciate his leadership in our organization. Last but not least, Stacy Danheiser. Stacy is a seasoned B2B marketing leader. She's the founder of Shake Marketing Group, a go-to-market consultancy. Stacy's customer value-led approach has transformed the growth trajectory of more than 45 companies, B2B brands, leading to exceptional results. She's also a best-selling author, trusted advisor, and creator of Ascend B2B Marketing Leadership Accelerator. It's an immersive mentorship program for marketing leaders who aspire to create profound impact in their careers. Stacy's also been serving as a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and has done tremendous work helping to reshape our approach here at BBB Great West Pacific. So, Stacy, Scott, David, thank you all so much for joining us today. Great to have you with us. And we're going to jump right in and get started. I'm going to focus first, think about it, 30,000 feet and strategy. And Stacy, we'll start with you. Let's talk about what strategies that you're recommending businesses take to distinguish a company from its competitors as you're out looking for lead sources.
Yes. All right. Well, this is a great first question. So I've actually done a fair amount of research into the sea of sameness. And so I want to talk about why that happens first, and then talk about how to fix it. What we found doing research into why sameness is happening everywhere. And by the way, this is happening in every industry. It's not just B2B or B2C or tech or manufacturing. It's literally any industry. What we find is that the top companies are really just out copying each other. And so you end up with the same YS story, the same marketing tactics, the same marketing tools. And the reason we found that this is happening is, number one, is following the herd feels safe. So it's scary to be different. It's scary to try something different. And a lot of organizations are just risk averse. And so following the herd seems safe. If it's working for them, maybe it'll work for me too. The second is that companies really are just kind of unaware that their customers have choices. And so maybe they're inadvertently staying safe and playing the sameness game, but because there's like two schools of thought. Should I keep my pulse on the competitors, or should I ignore my competitors and just focus on my customers? And my stance is that I think it's kind of naive to assume that your customers don't have any choices. They are out there looking and comparing your business to other businesses. And so it's in your best interest to figure out what is that story that these competitors are telling, so that you can figure out how you want to be different. And the third reason, and this is directly from our research in the mouths of marketing professionals and business owners, is pure laziness. They follow the herd and do the sameness game because it's just easy, and actually being different takes a lot of work. So we're just going to be doing the easy way out. So I want to just talk about that first to kind of ground everybody on why that happens. So to break out of it, one, you need to have really a mindset of experimentation, right? And not being afraid to take a risk and to do something different. And that's like my general philosophy with marketing, is treating everything as an experiment, right? Like a scientist approaching it that, hey, let's try this new thing and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. But not being afraid to take the risk, or not being like waiting and seeing what's going to happen until the competitor does it for you to then copy. And then the second thing is really, I encourage all marketing teams to make sure that they know what the competition is doing and what their customers are comparing them against. So even that's simply going to Google, typing in questions, typing in your business name and others, and seeing what comes up, so that you can figure out, wow, do we sound exactly the same as them? And then, prioritize learning about your customers. So one of the things I think that's happened over the past several months is that, especially with AI and with the flood of AI-driven content and everybody rushing to AI as a productivity tool, is that now everything kind of really sounds robotic and similar to each other. So really taking a stance of understanding what it is that your customers want, what are their problems and what are their motivations, and prioritizing learning about that so that you can be the answer. And I will say that even though that sounds so basic, most companies do not do that. And so if you do that, you're automatically going to stand out, because a lot of people and a lot of companies like to talk about themselves and they like to talk about their product. They do not like to talk about their customer and the problems that they solve. And so when you kind of flip the script a little bit on that, then it is very different than what a lot of your competitors in your industry is doing.
David, let's talk strategy. What's that approach look like for you and Dibella?
Yeah, so for us, really what we look at is speed to lead. So, we have systems in place where if an inquiry comes in or a lead comes in, we're going to call it within 5 seconds. It goes through all of our systems, it gets enriched, it gets to the call center, and then we call it in 5 seconds. Literally, we have homeowners, when they take the call, they're like, hey, I just hit submit. This is weird. What we find is that other smaller companies, if you will, industry average is 48% of people that buy leads never call them. So that kind of separates us right away, is that we're getting on these leads and we're calling them. That's a big thing that we look at is, are we able to get a hold of them? If they're not good leads, then maybe we need to look at that vendor or where we're sourcing those from.
And Scott, what is Lex Brody's approach to strategy when it comes to lead gen?
Well, for us and for all businesses, it starts with, what our goal is with trying to bring customers in. Do we want them to call? Do we want them just to drive in? Do we want them to visit our website? For us, obviously, we want them to come into our store so we can help them. But through our leads, our main goal is to get them to go to our website. And then from there, super important that you have, the things on your website that are easy to find that your customer's looking for. Stacy, she talks about how she's value orientated. How they try to, really stress that with their businesses. And that's, we call it our Lex advantage. What do we have that our competitors don't have? And then we really focus on those. What are the warranties, unique warranties we have, unique services, and really what sets us apart. That way, we can stand out. And then when we successfully drive folks to our website, then it's a matter of how do we track what conversions are working, and can we verify that it actually is bringing customers into us. So from there, we really watch, what leads come in and how well we can actually verify the sales that come from them beyond just impressions. If you're just tracking impressions, it can be a black hole in a money pit. You have to be able to verify what's bringing a lead into you and what sales you're getting from that. And then, sorry, I'll refer back to Stacy again. She mentioned the testing. That's the beauty of digital marketing versus being locked into annual, more traditional contracts. Is with digital marketing, you can try something. You can try it for a quarter. If you have good measuring systems, you can see if it's working. You can add more budget to it and see if it adds more sales to your bottom line. Then if it's not working, you scrap it and you try something else. So for us, it's, really defining what's your goal, pointing out to your, when the customers are looking for you and they get to your website, can they tell what sets you apart? And then how well is your tracking systems with those leads?
We talked about Better Business Bureau's 8 standards. As I listen to the answers to those questions, I think responsiveness, which is one of BBB's standards. It's just, as Stacy put it, show up, be there. And a 5-second response, David, I mean, that is really impressive and aspirational for all of us on the call. And to Scott's point, to be paying attention to the customer so that you are delivering what's needed. So in thinking about our customers, we are all bombarded with, I think it's thousands of messages a day. And as human beings, we're getting really good at filtering all of that out. So what are some of the ways that you're rising above the noise, so to speak, to capture and keep a customer's attention through this process and let them know that you're the best option out there for what they're looking for? And we'll start with you, David, on that one.
Yeah, I think we overall, we try to have prominence and be active on all social medias, online directories, review sites. We do a lot of third-party review sites. One of my biggest MOs since coming to Dibella in 2013 was reviews. And I want to say we're one of the most online reviewed companies probably in the United States. I think we're a little over 23,000 online reviews right now. We get a lot of reviews, which is kind of hard to do in this space. So, I think just showing up, like what has been said, but all over. So directories, BBB, local community groups, wherever you can, we want Dibella to be there.
Scott.
Well, for us, it's a balance. We still do traditional marketing. About 15% of our budget is still traditional marketing. We're kind of fortunate, being on Oahu. It's a the ads go out to the whole state, but the lion's share of the population is right here on the island. So we do a fair amount of branding. Again, we're highlighting what sets us apart. And then the goal with the views from the traditional marketing is driving them to our website. And then from there, we utilize the BBB tools. Of course, we have our BBB profile. We use BBB's retargeting, Google retargeting ads, which is a really affordable way for smaller businesses to get into that field. Normally, it takes a pretty large budget to have effective, Google ads. And we do use Yelp's, basically their AdWords ads, essentially. And we do a pretty robust Google AdWords marketing as well. So those are the larger, ways we get out there. So one, you're branding, but two, when customers are in the market or they're looking for our services, where are they looking? How well do we pop up when they're doing those searches? And as David mentioned, we're very attentive to our reviews. We respond to all feedback very quickly. An officer of the company kind of watches the reviews. As soon as they come in, usually they're responded to within 15 minutes, publicly on all sources, whether it's BBB, Yelp, Google, Facebook. The reviews are huge. Yeah.
So Stacy, let's talk about the advice that you give to stay above all the noise, capture and keep attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll take it from a company/marketing perspective. I think one of the biggest challenges is just being consistent, and that recognizing that a customer or a consumer or a business or a partner is not just consuming one piece of information, right? They may see an ad, then they go to your website, then they sign up for your newsletter, then they have a phone call with a sales rep. Then they may attend a webinar or meet you at an event or see a billboard or another ad. And so all of that really is building your brand consistency. And so, making sure that there's this golden thread throughout all of those communications and that they're not treated as one-off tactics, I think is a really smart way. The best brands in the world do this, right? And I always kind of tell marketers, we get really sick of hearing our own message long before the rest of the population understands what it is that we even do and what we stand for. And so we have to kind of constantly be wearing this brand police hat and making sure that it's consistent. And you can do a test even internally at your company, right? Ask everybody, what's the value proposition, or what do we stand for? What are the 3 words that come to your mind when you think of our company or our brand? And if internally you're getting different answers, then for sure externally you're getting, probably even more of a smattering of opinions. And so it's a really hard job to do that. I mean, consistency sounds easy, but it's very difficult to do. And I think that's definitely one way to get and keep consumers' attention, is that you're just the drumbeat over and over of like, what is that message in any, communication vehicle that you're out there in.
So Stacy, earlier you mentioned AI, and Scott mentioned some of the platforms that you're using, but let's spend some time talking about this whole idea of technology and what's happening, especially in light of AI and the tools that are available to us. So how are you keeping up with the technology in the marketing space, in the lead gen space? And then we'll talk about some of the specific tools, if you haven't mentioned them already, that you're using. And Scott, we can start with you.
Well, when it comes to AI, there's 2 that really stand out that come to mind. One of the things we get is a lot of automotive estimate quotes that come through, through emails, through text, through phone calls. The issue with online automotive phone quotes is to quote accurately, you need to get a lot of information, the VIN number, the license plate, the mileage. There's a lot of information that needs to be captured to give an accurate quote. So we actually added a AI-driven online quote tool that's on our website that helps respond to a lot of those questions. It uses our labor rates. It uses the local parts house parts listing. So that helps us answer a lot of those leads and helps us convert a lot of them without overwhelming our phones. And then from there, our vendor that helps us with our Google AdWords, they obviously have all these different vendors have their own AI tools that they fine tune. They work with hundreds or thousands of different customers, and they optimize their tools to improve those businesses' results. So we've found we're on our third vendor that we tried, and the one that we found is doing an excellent job. And the amount of return that we see with our investment is exceptional. And they use AI and it's proprietary, but that's how we take advantage of the AI out there, is by finding the vendors that are very transparent with us and work with us and can really show the results.
So Scott, would I interpret that to mean no long-term contracts and being able to pivot quickly because of how fast? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. All of our digital marketing is all month to month. Even with AdWords, there's a lot to set up. And this particular vendor in the beginning told us, we don't have long-term contracts. If we're not producing, we don't expect you to keep with us. If we can't provide the results, you should go somewhere else. So
Stacy, you use this term sea of sameness, and how AI can actually make you look and sound a lot like everybody else. So how do you walk that fine line and get the most from technology, like Scott was telling us, yet not get muddled down in the sea of sameness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting space that we're in right now. So on the one hand, it's great because it accelerates productivity. I use AI personally for content brainstorming and for idea generation. I never take anything that the AI says and like copy paste it verbatim and post it on LinkedIn. But this is where I think it's kind of like marrying your perspective and your brand's tone of voice into like what you're getting back from the AI. And the piece that, so while it's great to just jumpstart ideas and to get into the brainstorming and to even just fine tune and finish things up. So that's how I personally use it. I think on the marketing tech side, I was just going to say there's like 14,000 marketing technology tools, and that just keeps growing and growing. There's an infographic that shows the breakdown of all these marketing tech tools. So it's impossible, right, to become an expert in all 14,000 tools. So as Scott said, finding vendors or partners that know this or that can recommend things, I think that's a great way to just accelerate, making a choice and just kind of getting out of that analysis paralysis mode of just choose a marketing automation solution. They're pretty much all the same. That being said, I just read a Gartner stat that says, 40% of marketing technology goes unused. So what's happening is people are buying technology, not really realizing what all the features that they just bought, and then they're only using a little portion of it. So chances are there's some tools that may overlap. Unless you're working with, an external vendor to help you make that selection, you're probably, if you're responsible for choosing these on your own, you're probably not utilizing all the features that are available to do what you need to do.
So David, I'll turn to you in that. When you hear 14,000 different tools, what are you doing with Dibella to go out and find the best tools for you, and how does that work right now?
I'm testing every single one of them. No, I'm just kidding. So, what's interesting? So with my team, we handle online lead vendors. We also do the website, SEO, and newsletter. That's kind of our focus here at Dibella. So I challenge my team to once a month find something in marketing or technology that they want to study on for an hour and then report on it on your end a week. And every month they're finding a new technology to look at, and I'm doing the same. And then once a week in my one-on-ones, I'll report on, lately it's been AI, every week, something new. Last week I was reporting on how they've Google walked around their campus for an hour with a video camera, recorded it, and then programmed the robot with 50 employees, and they had 90% correct rate when they said, "Hey, robot, take me to the blue water cooler by the red wall," and then it did, and all off video, just amazing stuff. So it may not be lead gen specific, but we're still moving forward in new technology, and that's what I'm always challenging my guys to, and it helps us just get better.
So we want to make sure that these webinars give our viewers live right now and those watching the recorded version something tangible they can put into action already. I mean, we've been challenged on how fast we can be responsive. Understand that we're not in this alone, that there are a variety of tools out there, different ways that we can engage our teams if we have teams to get them involved. But understanding nobody is there are no paid name drops in this webinar. What are some of the tools that you're using right now that are delivering results for you, that a business owner who might be owner operator running their business out of their truck right now could say, I don't know where to go. I don't have time to go out and do an hour of research every week. I'm actually doing the work myself. What are some of those tools that you're using right now that are delivering results for you? And we'll start with a quick round robin and David.
Any analytics, Google Analytics. We use BrightEdge here. It's a pretty big SEO tool, so it's more of an enterprise level tool. I don't think a lot of people, smaller companies, would use it. It is a little expensive, but very good. And they have some AI writing tools in there where it's kind of like human prompt, AI writes, human correct. It's kind of the human sandwich, but it's really come a long ways in the last couple months. That's a couple. We use Active Prospect for our leads, and Trusted Form. All of our leads are verified with Trusted Form. So if somebody tries to sue us, we have a recording of them filling out that form for 5 years, just for compliance. So that's just a couple tools off the top of my head.
I think you just got everybody's attention. Wait a minute. I could be sued around lead gen. So let's put a stake in the ground real quick and just talk about the importance of documentation through this process and what that, some of the liabilities, risks that are there and how you mitigate those and reduce it. Because honestly, we had this, we were having this conversation and I hadn't put those two things together personally.
So yeah, I'll speak on it real quick, and I'll try to time myself so I don't go, because I could go for an hour or two on this. So the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, in January of this coming year is going to pass a new rule that says if I buy leads from you, it has to be a one-to-one consent, meaning you sell me the lead for DeBella, I have to call as DeBella. I can't sell it to 4 different people, and then and what that looks like. So it's totally different. So the price of leads is going to go up. We expect that, but it's a better experience for the homeowner. So it's this one-to-one consent. So when you go to my website, whatever it is, I've got hundreds out there, and you fill out my form, there's a JavaScript running in the background that records that, and it appends that data to that lead. And when that lead gets sent to me, my system captures that, and I keep that recording for 5 years. So somebody tried to sue me. Their husband was at a Starbucks at 5:30 in the morning. She didn't know. He called to get a lead. She didn't know. We called her. She's like, well, I didn't put in a lead. Well, she tried to sue us. Well, I had a recording of her husband. I knew his IP address. I knew he was in Starbucks in Seattle. They dropped the lawsuit.
Wow.
Okay. So, Scott, I guess we'll make this a two-part question as we do this round robin. Number one, tools that are working for you, and if you have anything to add on mitigating the liability, or that you're doing to prepare for this new rule that comes down in January?
Well, for us, we don't have lead forms, to get filled out online. Essentially, our leads are either through phone calls, which pretty much all of them are recorded. So we have those that we can refer back to if needed, and we can use for training, which we do. And then, of course, any other communication through text or email is all documented. But as far as what's successfully bringing us leads. It's a combination of everything that we do. It's the branding that we do through social media, through TV, through our community support, and then the big lead tracker would be when the customer is ready to get their work done. They need to come in for one of our services or products. How do they end up coming to us? And that's Google AdWords has just been phenomenal. We've experimented with a lot of different strategies with how we target either geographically or keywords. We've just keep playing with it, and it keeps getting stronger and stronger. For our 4 locations on Oahu, for just last month, it was like 3,100 leads, store visits that we had through our AdWords. So those are people that actually clicked on one of our AdWords ads and ended up within one of our stores that same month, and that's just phenomenal. Then we also use Yelp, and we do use BBB's retargeting Google tool. We use BBB's. We do their ad takeover on bbb.org. So when folks are on our bbb.org for Hawaii, they see our ad pops up that kind of highlights the things that set us apart. And then when they click on it, it actually goes to a unique landing page on our website, which really helps us kind of track those leads as well. So it's a combination of a little of everything. But again, it really comes down to how well you can track those leads. We track them through our converted phone calls. Every digital lead source for each location has a different tracked number. So it's a different phone number. They all get recorded. Our website provider is actually integrated into our point of sale. So if you go to Yelp and search tires and you call our store, we have the call. Then if a week later you come in and buy a set of tires for $800, we can actually link that up because that phone number is on that invoice. So we can actually track those leads. And we say about 90% we can track, but really when I add up all the tracked leads, it comes out to like 160%. So there is that duplication in the leads. If they go to Google AdWords ad, they're calling us or making their online appointment. But yeah, so it's having that website that's really effective, the Google ads, your Yelp, your Google business profile, or the BBB profile, using their ads when you can. They actually have a lot of marketing tools that can be used, and just being able to track them and measure them.
Okay, we're gonna talk about tracking specifically here pretty soon. But Stacy, I wanted to ask you, when you're talking to a client and you think about your client, I'm gonna say owner operator or somebody who has fewer than 5 employees, probably in the home services industry kind of thing. What is there one tool at this moment that you're saying this one's working really well right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, 2, I would say. Number 1, Canva, which is amazing for creating graphics. Anything for social media, anything for presentations, for videos they even have. It's very easy to use, and it looks very professional. And so it looks like a professional graphic designer. So you don't have to go hire somebody to design something that looks great. And it's extremely affordable. That's number 1. The other one would be some type of email automation tool. So whether that's HubSpot has one, I think it's pretty expensive, but MailChimp is great. So I would say MailChimp, even they have, and they've now integrated AI into helping with the design aspect of it. And so they've really redesigned their platform to make it easy to use on the back end. And I think that's the benefit that we're seeing, right, with this AI integration, is that these tools are just getting easier to use, so that as a solo, business owner, or if you don't have a marketing team or a marketing professional, that you could learn this pretty quickly on your own and be able to just automate some of these communications and still look and feel really professional.
So I am thinking of a conversation I had with a friend of mine who owns a retail shop in a town, and he said, we keep having marketers come in to the shop and making these big promises that they can deliver lots of customers, lots of leads, and they talk a really good game. But I'm left wondering, how do I know they can actually do the work? So that leads into this question, and Scott has talked about tracking performance and lead performance. But for the business who's looking at this and saying, okay, I'm getting some good ideas, but how do I know that this is actually working. The lead generation efforts are effective. So Stacy, we'll just continue the conversation, but what are some of the measurement tools that you encourage businesses so they know they're not wasting their money?
Well, first of all, that is what I call the silver bullet approach to marketing. So if anybody comes and pitches and promises that there's some one tactic or one tool or one silver bullet, do not believe them. And I think a lot of business owners have fallen into that trap, which, then it gets everybody really frustrated. So I just wanted to say that, don't believe them, because that's not true, right? I mean, you can think of your own self that there's different things that you need to see or read or consume to make a decision, and your customers are the same. So what I like to do is actually to measure marketing activity is to think of the buyer's journey and the stages that the buyer has to go through in order to make a decision. And there's really like 5 stages. So the first is awareness, and that is looking at things like, I think Scott mentioned, looking at the impressions that your ads are making. Look at how many people are coming to your website. Look at how many people are following your social media pages, right? Those are just eyeballs. How many eyeballs are potentially on my brand? The second then is demand. That's how many leads are we getting? Do people take the next step? So they came to my website, and then did they take the next action? Did they sign up for the webinar? Did they sign up for my newsletter? Did they sign up for my lead form? Did they want to get any more information from me? The third is sales, right? And these are like deals that you have closed and won. And so this, of course, is revenue. So looking at the sales that are coming in, looking at the revenue. And then I like to look at, for that one, closed deals that we won and also closed deals that we lost. And if we lost or we won, why? And so starting to get some metrics around that. And then the fourth stage is retention. So this is especially important if you sell more than one thing, or if you sell something that renews every single year, that you look at your retention rates, and how effective are you at getting people to sign up or subscribe again and again. And then finally, the last one is what I would call like advocates, customer advocates, or customer loyalty. And this is looking at people that refer your business. And these are the people that, are for free, are talking about your business and referring you to other people and recommending you. And that's really like the ultimate goal, right? Is that you have a bunch of advocates who are marketing on your behalf. So every single one of those stages require different marketing activities. And so, step one is to figure out, well, what is the main goal that we're trying to solve here? And then now let's look at our activity, and then we can start measuring that activity. I think it's, I think people get a little confused because they're like, I did a marketing ad and therefore I want revenue. Well, it doesn't exactly work that way, right? So there's different points that a consumer has to go through in their mind in order to make a decision. And so marketing is really aligned with those stages.
Scott, what are some of the measurement tools that Lux Brody's uses?
One of the big ones that just about everyone could take advantage of, but most people would need a little help setting it up, is your Google Analytics. Google Analytics gives you a wealth of information. And with some of our digital marketing partners, we've also gotten them to provide pixels that we can put on the pages that we're driving customers to, that we can not only see that customers are landing there, but they're also booking an appointment. We can actually see that they're actually doing a closing activities, so we can see what's converting and what's not converting. And then besides Google Analytics, that's really, really a good one. I have another marketing person that I'm very close with that shared a product called BigMaker for WordPress websites. And they shared some of the screenshots that they're getting with that. So it basically makes the Google Analytics very easy to read, especially with the new Google Analytics GA4. It's not as user-friendly as the last version. So if you're not spending a lot of time on it, sometimes it's hard to get the information you want. But Google Analytics is huge. And then when different digital marketers come through the door, you really got to ask them, how are you going to verify or show not just the impressions, but the lead conversions that you get. I got some marketers, they'll say, I'll ask them for those pixels so we can set that up, so we can track it. And they're like, oh, just go to your Google Analytics. So it's like, well, I'm looking for them to help us show that their product is actually working really well for us. And like I mentioned earlier, we actually are fortunate. We have a vendor that helps us track the phone calls. If you're able to track the phone calls where you can, get the recordings, our lead source is pretty unique to where they're actually integrated into our point of sale, so we can actually see when those are converted. There are other vendors out there, but you just got to look for them.
Okay. David.
Yeah, just to touch on what Stacy said, I fully agree with everything she said. I would add a couple more things though. We check out everything. So cost of marketing, she kind of touched on that, but if I spend $100, I need back 1,000 in revenue. And that's what I tell all these vendors. That's really what I'm shooting for. If we can come in at 8% cost of marketing, that's great. I'll spend more money with you. Let's get more leads, right? The second thing we look for, because of COVID, we have 3 call centers in the US now, not just one, so we can't get taken down. You know what I mean? So what's that cost of the converted lead to an appointment? What's that dollar amount? We like that to be somewhere around $250. And then the third thing we look at is on the sale, what's the dollar amount return per sale? So our average ticket price is around $20,000. So on a low, it might be 5 to 10,000. A medium, and I'm just giving rough numbers. Medium might be 10 to 15,000. High might be, 15 to 23,000 or something like that. So each of my lead sources, what's your dollar amount being returned on the sale? That kind of plays in what she was talking about, looking at your retention. We also look at areas where there's credit declines, like major credit declines. We might start to limit that or filter based off a credit score. We can actually do that when the leads come in. And if the credit score is too low for that area, we'll just block the leads.
So we have some questions coming in from the audience. We are going to answer those questions. The final question that we're going to ask, and I'm going to plant this seed with our panel right now. So I don't want to hear the answer right now. I want you to think about it as we work through this, and then we're going to hold it to the very end. But I want you to think about this statement that we can leave with our viewers. And this statement is, when it comes to lead gen, if there's just one thing that you walk away from this webinar knowing and remembering, it is, and then you finish the statement. So that'll be how we wrap this up. The one thing that the viewers need to do based on each of your expertise and where you're coming from. So we'll plant that. And if you're watching, we're going to hit that at the end of this webinar, because our times, we're flying by. We're 42 minutes in. Let's talk quickly about quality versus quantity. So a lot of businesses are saying we want a significant quantity of leads coming in, and sometimes that's because the quality is low, and so we try to offset that. But how do you balance that? And especially considering the quality issue, from what I understand, David, is going to be impacted after January 1st with this new FTC rule that's coming down the pike. So David, we'll start with you. Balancing quality versus quantity.
I think having a huge vendor pool helps. I'm somewhere right around 75 vendors right now that I potentially work with and get leads from. Some of those we get a lot from, some we get a trickle from. And we're always watching those metrics I talked about, the cost of marketing, the cost of converted lead to appointment, and the dollars return per sale. Some of my guys are great, and they are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Some guys are smaller, and then some guys I fire. I onboard 3 to 5 guys, new accounts a month, and then also get rid of potentially 3 to 5, depending on if they're not producing. So we're a little bit of an anomaly just because we're such a large organization that we're able to kind of test and use more lead sources than most. But it's quite a process.
But I think, you raised a great point. Even though DaBella is large, nationwide kind of approach, there are pieces, there are strategies that can be employed all the way, regardless of the size of business. Scott, balancing quantity versus quality.
For us, the big focus is going to be on how well we optimize and narrow down the keywords that customers are searching, that we get the leads from. Our locations have pretty big properties, but there's only so many cars we can park on the parking lot in a day. We schedule appointments, we accept walk-ins, and so take take Yelp, for example. If we didn't narrow down our Yelp budgets, we could be flooded both with phone calls and with cars on services either we don't really do at all. Like it could be a auto collision repair that we don't do, so it's a call that our employees have to take. Or there could be customers driving in for really small repairs that we can do, but of course we'd rather fill more of our bays with tires and brakes and the larger repairs. And of course you need those larger repairs to be successful. So we really look at the keywords that people are searching, and if there's services that we're trying to minimize, then we block those keywords, and then we boost ones that are working well for us, and we put more emphasis on those. But we do that both with our Google AdWords and on our Yelp profiles, which is they both really help us kind of encourage the work and the vehicles we want to see and narrow down those that we need to see fewer of.
Stacy, advice for businesses on this quantity and quality.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is always a battle between marketing and sales, right? Because marketing is feeding the sales team with a bunch of leads, and the sales team says, what are these things? These are not leads. And so I would say number one is to figure out actually and agree upon in your company who is the ideal customer. And surprisingly, that work is not often done, right? So I do this, I ask a lot of executives this question at companies, and I will hear different answers from different people. And so there's not agreement on who the ideal customer is, which then goes to part two. Well, what is a lead? And how are we defining what an actual lead is, and what we want to see and what we don't want to see? So I would say there's a little bit of legwork required. When you fix that piece, then everybody wants more quality and less quantity, because it's a numbers game, and people are long and wasting their time. They want to close a deal. And so that piece really dramatically helps once you've figured out, who's the ideal customer, what is the lead, and then you tailor your message to reach those people. And so I thought that was a good example, Scott, of saying like, these are some criteria of what good looks like, and people that we want to attract versus people we don't want to attract. And so one way to get around that, for example, would be if you keep hearing from your customers, oh, your price is too high, you're just too expensive. Well, then you could put your pricing on your website, starting at X dollars, and to get people to weed themselves out. Don't call me, like our budgets start at this amount. So if you don't have that minimum amount, then we're probably not the right vendor or partner for you.
Let's talk about this idea of budget. And we all are operating with budgets, limited resources. So when you're thinking about allocating budget to lead gen activities, what's your approach to that? Is it just a percentage? Is it floating? Talk to us, and we'll start with you, Scott, on how you allocate budget to lead gen.
I think David mentioned as far as testing things, and it was back in 2015 when we were almost completely still traditional marketing, and we wanted to dive into digital marketing. We just started moving pieces and testing out different digital opportunities, and as we saw they worked and we could see the converted leads, we just moved more of our traditional budget to those leads, and that's how we grew it. And we grew those larger leads to the point where we saw where they plateaued. We keep monitoring, and now we look for a different lead source and start testing those out and seeing if they're working. So it was kind of an organically grown and developed budget by kind of moving funds around and testing. And then when we saw results and it's actually bringing new customers into us, it makes sense to, as long as you can handle the additional volume, to add more marketing to those items. So we just organically grew it by testing it and measuring it, and just going from there.
David.
So I kind of look at marketing like a big flywheel. So I want to do little iterations to make bigger changes down the road. So for example, we want more keywords to populate for Dibella. So we'll start writing more blog posts, and then we'll start seeing those keywords seed, and then we start showing up for those. So that, that's one real simple way. But when we look at our marketing, we try to look at it as a kind of a big pie, right? So you have pay-per-click, social, email, TV, radio, right? All these different things. And how does DaBella tie into that? Or you as a business owner, how does your business tie into those areas? Make a little chart, draw it out. If you're lacking in some of those areas, reach out to companies that do those and try to fill them. So when the new year rolls around, we are in all these different areas, and I'm not really too worried about what's going to happen because I know that all my eggs are not in one basket.
Stacy, let's talk about this idea of how do you advise companies on budget?
Yeah, I mean, number one is that I like to go back to what the goals are, right? Do we know what our goals are and what we're trying to achieve? I think a lot of times people get distracted by the bright, shiny object, and it's, oh, hey, we just got invited to do this sponsorship for this event. And hey, this new AI tool just came out and I think we should do it. And this new thing came out, and all of a sudden your budget's all over the place. So when you constantly go back to what the goal is and what you're trying to achieve, whether that's growing a specific customer segment, or whether that's growing a specific product line, or whether that's growing a specific geography, kind of keeping that at the forefront so that you have a evaluation criteria for when these opportunities pop up. And then, so that's kind of number one. And then number two is really, there's like the bottoms up and top down approach to building the budget. So really, ideally in marketing, you're kind of doing both. You're looking at what is it going to take for me to grow this particular product line or this particular customer segment. And maybe I have to do some expensive things like sponsor events and do a bunch of Google ads to get my name out there because we don't have the market share. In other areas, you might be spending a little bit less. And so I like to look at it just kind of from a segment basis to figure out the different levers that you can pull. And there's, so many different options for marketing, which I think is what makes it kind of fun, but also can be frustrating because it's like a game of chess and all the different combinations that you could potentially have to win the game. And so there's, I'll just kind of throw one out that I think is underrated, is partnerships. And who are those other companies that maybe offer a complementary service to what you're doing, and how could you potentially partner up and maybe share leads back and forth and start to build a relationship that's non-threatening, that's complementary, and reach a whole brand new audience without having to spend a lot of money.
And I'll throw in Better Business Bureau's Get a Quote as one of the options for our BBB accredited businesses as a low, no cost option for lead gen for folks. So we have a total of 8 minutes left, and I'm going to launch into our audience questions. The first one deals with search engine optimization, SEO. And the question is really basic and straightforward. Do you invest in SEO, or would you recommend a business invest in SEO? So I would say this can also be one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot without a lot of people understanding exactly what goes into it. So give us your approach to SEO and then what an investment would look like for your business and recommendations. And David, we'll start with you.
It used to be a lot of spreadsheets and nightmares and headaches. About 4 years ago, we switched over to BrightEdge. It is an enterprise level tool. It's on a per year contract. We have rep and as well as managed services. We do weekly projects with them. They've helped us immensely with being found. But it really is an enterprise level tool. It's just amazing. Does a lot. There's a lot of less expensive options out there. SEMrush, SpyFu. I used to use those tools a lot, and now we've used BrightEdge. So,
Scott,
we hire vendors that help us with it. We have our website provider that helps us with how they help us, and then we have another vendor that we work with. I do subscribe to multiple SEO tools, Ahrefs, SEMrush. They all will analyze your website in different ways and point out things that are going well and not going well. And you'll never be able to solve them all. And, 1 hour they'll show something on your website's an issue, and the next hour it shows it's not an issue. So I watch those different sources. So I can kind of watch those while I'm communicating with our vendors. And, when I see things or have concerns, I can kind of ask them and pick their brains, and you kind of look at all the different resources together, because it's a puzzle. It's a huge puzzle. It's always changing, and it's something that takes constant kind of little tweaks here and there. You can't do too much at one time, and it's just something you just need to constantly be on and find the right team to kind of help you. Because as David kind of mentions, if you're trying to do it yourself, it'll consume too much of your time.
So based on that, let's circle back to one of the earlier questions and make it specific to SEO, because of the nature and it changing so rapidly, and the fact that you really do need some outside help. That's a spend. How are you evaluating effectiveness specific to SEO? Well,
that one I don't have as well of a measuring tool as we do for our leads. It's basically there's trust. When you communicate with your vendors, you can kind of tell, when you see different things pop up in the different blogs that you kind of sit in and things you see coming through, that you can tell if they're keeping up with their game and well versed in what they're doing. So it's, for us, it's you're trusting your vendors, and you just kind of watch things on your own and just kind of go from there.
Okay. Stacy, any ideas, number one, on this whole idea about SEO, how to address it, and evaluating effectiveness?
Well, yeah. So SEO is great for local businesses. And that's, as people are searching for things and then they add a city name or they add a state name or they add a zip code. So that's a great way to be found in that space. It's also great for education and educating your consumers. So, like, hey, I need to get a new roof. And so somebody typing in like difference between a metal roof and a tile roof, right? And if your company is investing in SEO, it's not just the SEO of I need to be found. It's actually you're investing in creating content, and you're investing in educating your customers and bringing them to your website to hopefully eventually convert them and be the source that they go to. So it's a two-pronged approach. Like if you're not willing to create content, or you don't have people or have time to create content, then I would say SEO is probably not at the top of the list, because your website's going to be pretty stale pretty quickly if you're not investing in keeping it fresh and putting new content out there. The second piece, which I think will be interesting if you've gone to Google lately and you type in a question and then you get this AI generated summary response, there's going to be an impact to SEO. I don't know what it is, but already as just a consumer, I've noticed myself bypassing. I don't click on any other links because I'm like, oh, okay, that's the answer I needed. That was quick. Sometimes maybe I'll go scroll down a little bit and click on the first, one or two sources. But I think it'll be interesting as that continues to evolve and those answers maybe get better. How many people just are going to bypass websites altogether to get educated? I don't know the answer yet.
Okay. So our last question from the audience, I'm going to read this verbatim from B. Fawcett. As a residential remodeler, we're constantly asked for a ballpark. So can AI help with that and be somewhat accurate? Our customers are really wanting more information on the costs of their project. Is there something out there that we can share with them? So David, I'm thinking this falls right in line with your area specifically in the home services arena.
So you definitely could write a prompt that would answer that, or they could have AI answer that question. That wouldn't be that hard. What I would look at, though, actually would be sites, and I'm just going to throw out a name like Angie's List. So this site has real reviews from people, and in each of those jobs, it has the actual price of the job. So it'll show, like for DeBella, 300 reviews, and each of those jobs has a price. So 25,000, 35,000, 40,000. And those are all people that had work done from us. So our sales guys will pull that out when they're in the house and say, hey, look, this is what people are paying. Those are the real prices. So a little bit of price conditioning, we're not the cheapest guys in town at all. I'd actually say we may be the most expensive because we offer a great product, great warranties, and we're going to get it done.
So any other thoughts on pricing, because we're up against the clock? I'll open it before we start to wrap things up with our very last question that we promised we would hit. Scott, Stacy, anything on pricing?
Yeah, we do some package prices on more common services. But when customers have general questions, sometimes for us, we need to see the vehicle before we can give an accurate quote. So yeah, we have our package prices where we can, and from there we'll ask them to come into the store.
I have heard of people saying, like, for example, if it's like a 20 square project, you'll say, that's 20,000 square feet. You can say something like starting at 1995, something like that. Give them kind of a ballpark.
Got it. So I did mention Better Business Bureau's Get a Quote program. It uses BBB's trusted online platform to automatically connect customers with the business. When a customer needs your services, they fill out a form at bbb.org, and that request is then sent directly to the BBB accredited business. The leads it generates are pre-qualified. Customers requesting the quote are already interested. They're ready to engage, and Get a Quote is included as part of BBB accreditation. It gives your business that steady stream of leads at a fraction of the cost of other methods. So super important. Last question, really quick round robin because we're at time. David, we'll start with you. If I'm looking at my Brady Bunch screen, you're right there at the top left corner as I read across. Let's finish this statement. If there's just one thing I want the viewer to remember and walk away from this webinar with when it comes to lead gen, it is:
when you get the lead, make the call. Just keep working that lead. You got to make those calls, guys. Don't let the lead go away. You're paying for it. Use it. Call it.
Be responsive. Scott.
It's measure the effectiveness of those leads. And if you're getting results that are being provided by your vendor, you can trust them, but then look for ways you can verify what they're sharing with you. Because of course, they're always going to make it look good in their light. So it's get the leads, measure it, trust what your vendors are telling you, but verify on your own.
And Stacy, the final word.
I would say getting leads can be overwhelming, but just choose one tactic to start with and to start getting your message out there and perfecting it. You heard a lot of different tactics today. You don't have to do everything at once. And so just start small.
Okay. We're going to have information on how to make contact with these folks. They have great businesses, great advice for businesses, and they're there to help businesses. Thank you each again. David, Scott, Stacy, we really appreciate you making this time to be with us today. We are past time. We're going to let you know that you can revisit this. You can find their contact information, today's panel contact information. We're going to be emailing you a recording of this webinar, and you can revisit all of the previous webinars by going to thebbb.org/behind-the-sign. That link is also where you can register to attend upcoming webinars. We're doing these on a monthly basis, including the next one, which is Thursday, August 15th. Stacy is joining us again for the full hour, sharing with us her marketing expertise. We're going to focus on how you can tell customers why they should buy from you and not from your competition. So this is really a differentiating webinar for you. Thank you again. That link to register one more time is thebbb.org/behind-the-sign. We'd love to have you there for that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar from the Better Business Bureau, Great West Pacific. We look forward to seeing you next time on August 15th. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.